Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl, I'm a recovery coach here at Cap Recovery Center. This is our coffee and conversation meeting for the day. And the article I have here is by coachingonline.org. So if you like this article, you can go to coachingonline.org. And the article I have here is response versus reaction. So we'll hop right into it. So you're about to learn the key differences between response versus reaction, why it's better to respond than react, and how to teach yourself to do that. Key takeaways. Reacting is triggered by the reptilian brain, while responding involves thinking with our prefrontal cortex. Reacting is easier, challenging situations, but responding tends to have better long-term consequences. When you can learn to respond instead of reacting, your relationships with other people are far more likely to have positive outcome. Wow. We'll go to number one. So what is the difference between a response and reaction? A reaction is instant, instinctive, and purely emotional. It's driven by the unconscious mind. That's why you often seem to react without thinking. A reaction is based entirely in the heat of the moment. When you react, you rarely give due consideration for the long-term consequences of your actions. A response occurs after you consider the desired outcome of the situation. In most cases, you'll consider the long-term consequences of your actions as such as a response usually aligns with your core values. Yeah, that's real big for me. And in active addiction and in recovery, like how I reacted, is based pure off emotions and feelings, like not thinking about consequences. That's why it got me where I'm at today, right? Because I ended up in like jails and institutions and almost died, all because I was like that, reacted. I didn't think about the consequences or long-term consequences that were going to be impacted off my reactions and my actions. I didn't think before I did what I did. I was always the heat of the moment, like I talked about, that I wasn't thinking, right? And it talks about a little bit of like, it guarantees if you respond and react, and you think about things before you just flip off at the mouth, you'll have a better outcome of healthier relationships and having more positive relationships and less as consequences of, instead of me reacting and getting impulsive and, flipping off at the mouth, usually it doesn't end up too good. So like, I'd rather respond than react today. And like, I understand what the difference is between the two, which as before I didn't. I have a better understanding of reacting and responding, and I still have to get better with that today. That's something that you work on, and it just doesn't happen overnight. It's definitely a process, like anything other else. I have to work on that and practice that on a daily basis. Let's see, number two. It says reaction versus response. What's going on in the brain? Another key difference, reacting and responding are fueled by different parts of the brain. A reaction is fueled by the reptilian brain. This animalistic part of the brain involves first. That's why a young child always tends to express itself by reacting. Its understanding of how to respond doesn't develop until later. This section of the brain is concerned primarily with avoiding harm and keeping you alive. The fight or flight response, I'm familiar with that, the fight or flight response, which sparks up when we sense danger, is triggered by this part of the brain. Our autopilot behaviors are also controlled here. So like that fight or flight, that happens live, like when it talks about being in danger, or if we're experiencing negative emotions and feelings. So it's like we go out and react at it, or we can flight, gone, see you later. We can shut down, not disgusting, avoiding. Um, avoidance is a real big key factor in active addiction, and also can be in recovery. So there's things that we start to learn about ourselves, and understand why we did the things that we did. And we talked about like getting to the core of things. Why do I have this anger? Why do I have this fear? Why do I have this avoidance? Right? And why do I always react and respond? Because some things it talks about like a young child, right? So if we grow up, right, start to grow up, and then we start using drugs and alcohol at a young age, where do you think our mindset is? You know what I mean? We don't develop mentally too well, because we stop the mind, we so like I used to use drugs and alcohol for many, many years, and I started at a young age, right? So like my mentality and my mental state wasn't too good, So, and that's what a lot of times I understand now. Like I stayed stuck in this childish mentality, and recovery's taught me to like how to be a productive member, and how to grow up in recovery, and how to be a productive member of society, and helps me not react and more so respond. Um, I see today like I have a lot better outcome when I respond and react. It doesn't always goes my way, but there's a lot better outcomes, and I build a lot more healthier relationships, and I have less consequences due to me responding and reacting. Let's see, number 3. Is it better to react or respond? Uh-oh. When we react, we're at the mercy of our emotions. Our reptilian brain makes a knee-jerk reaction based on how we feel in a moment. Often we do this, the future consequences and dire, as you can see in the first 2 examples. In this event, we often sense that we're not acting like ourselves. That's because reactions and spontaneous and not based on our conscious morals or values. When we respond, we are in control of our thoughts. We use logic to consider the consequences for ourselves and probably those around us. We make decisions based on existing values, although we might not always make the correct decision. We're at least putting our intelligence to work. In most cases, the end result is better when we do this. Yeah, I always take like try to take an inventory. You know what I mean? Am I reacting more than I'm responding? And like acknowledge, some of my relationships, right? And see like um, what's going on with me first off, and like what's going on with others. So it's not always about me today, right? And like why am I reacting or responding this certain way to certain people or certain things? You know what I mean? So I have to take it like an inventory to see what's really going on. And sometimes it's not even what the situation's about. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes we, take things out on the ones we love the closest to us, and we get frustrated and upset, but it's like it's really what's going on with us. So I have to take an inventory. It's like, why am I reacting this way? What's really going on? A lot of times it's like I'm not practicing principles, right? I'm not being loving and caring and understanding and accepting. These things that we're taught in recovery, like, a lot of that stuff goes out the window, and I act out on self-will, right? When I act out on self-will, I'm usually reacting in a negative way, right? So I have to like practice the pause button, which is can be hard at times, man, because we get in the heat of the moment, and we don't practice the pause button, and we don't think a lot of times. And usually, what happens, I say something or do something that's stupid, and then I have to clean it up with have to do the amend process. And the amend process is verbally, yes, saying I'm sorry, but it's also the big part of action, not repeating the same mistake again. So I know a lot of things go smoother when I don't react. So let's see. Number 4. Why do people react instead of respond? This simple answer is because it's easier. When we react, it involves almost zero brain power. You use no willpower, no self control, no mental strength, no consideration of others, none of that, because your brain is on autopilot. It's your default course of action to react because your brain likes using as little energy as possible. Your reptilian brain will let you sleepwalk through life if you let it. Wow. When we respond, we have to overpower the natural urge to react. It doesn't require effort. This involves self-awareness and mental strength. The thing is, a lot of us don't have enough of it. This is especially true when we are stressed or fatigued. It, it's in these moments we are most likely than ever to cave in and react instead of respond calmly. That's why unhappy people are more prone to reacting, while content people are usually able to respond. Wow, that's pretty big. And I can get agree what they're talking about. Like reacting is like I don't have to think much, right? I don't have to use my brain, or I don't have to use that much energy to just flip like that. As responding, you have to think, and you have to be understanding and accepting and loving and caring and all these things that we're taught in recovery. Like I have to process this stuff, right? So it's like reacting is like a flip of a switch, but responding is like practicing that pause button and really analyzing and taking an inventory and really thinking about the things I'm about to do or say, and that takes effort, that takes practice, that takes work, you know. But if you start to practice and do these things, we do get better at them. So if you don't want to get better with them, and you just keep on reacting, they'll keep getting the same consequences and reactions out of people that we always got. And I'm not trying to live like that today, right? I try to uh, respond more than I react. But like we're human, right? We have our defects and shortcomings, and we have our good days and bad days. So it's like, what do I do when I do react? Am I just brushing it off or putting it under the rug like I used to? Or like, am I taking accountability, right? And apologizing and applying action to my apologies, right? And amending these relationships and amending the things I said and done. Just taking accountability, which thing I didn't do in active addiction, right? I was accountable. I wasn't owning up to anything, right? So it's just like it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes work. Let's see here. Number 5, is it sometimes better to react? I don't think so. Oh, let's see. It says yes, absolutely. Remember, reacting is often linked to our flight or flight mechanism, and that is responsible for keeping us safe and alive. That's true. That is true. It says when we're in danger, we automatically react to protect ourselves. The problem is we trigger our fight or flight responses too easily, and react when respond is the best course of action. So basically, I get out of that is like, yes, we have a quick reaction when we're in danger, right? So that's a good sign of reaction. And I think that, we have all that instilled in us, like when we're in danger, our emotions and feelings, and, we feel some type of way, right? Like we have that reaction, a good reaction, right? Instead of, there's, I want to say good reaction and bad reaction, so it's like, I'd rather, hey, how you doing? Good, good. Yep. Hey. We were just talking about response and versus reaction.
Okay.
And like how response is like we think before we react. Like we think about what we're gonna say and what we're gonna do before we do them. And that's like reaction is just like not thinking and just saying and doing the first thing that comes to our mind.
Right.
You know, and I would say like usually that doesn't end up too good when I just react and respond.
Right.
You know, it causes more consequences and it causes more problems and conflict with other people when I just say and do what I want and not think before I do it.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, so that's a big thing that we need to work on. I need to work on, and you know, it just doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, it takes work, it takes time. But I still have work to do with response and reaction. Can you think of any? So, like, if you react, then respond. Usually, it is not too good.
Yeah, it's not. I need to think before I react, you know?
I always say, like, practice the pause button. Like, you know, let me stop and think before I say and do these things.
But with that, it's easier said than done.
I know. That's a lot of things. A lot of things are easier said than done.
Yeah.
But like, if I don't try, like if I don't work on these things, I'm not going to get the results that you know I need. Like I know when I react, it's negative, right? It causes conflict. It causes harm. Like I do like a pros and cons. It's like when I react, this happens. When I respond, this, you know. So I do a pros and cons. I know I have better relationships. I have a spirit, a higher spiritual condition, right? I have, I'm practicing more principles. I'm living a more content life when I respond and react. He's cute.
Thank you.
And that, yeah, you're definitely right. It's easier said than done. And that's like with a lot of things. Let's see here. So the last one here is reacting versus responding exercise. So these 5 steps exercises are often recommended to help people control their emotions and respond instead of reacting. It can be remembered using the pause. So there it is, the pause button. The moment you notice your emotions changing, pause and breathe. That's a big one. Like I said earlier, like I know the outcome of my actions and things I'm saying. If I pause before I react, you know, I have a better chance of building healthier relationships with first self, but for others too.
Right.
It says, label your emotions. Are you angry? Is this frustration, grief? Is it easier to process emotion when you constantly put a name on it? I like how it said that because, like, when we label our emotions, we always, well, I did, it's like, it's always like anger, but like, it's not always anger. It's like, am I dealing with grief? Am I dealing with negative emotions and feelings? If I'm just upset, you know, so it's like, it's not always just one emotion. It's not always one emotion. It's like multiple. That's why I have to label them to see why and what's going on and what emotion am I dealing with. If I don't know, I don't know. And usually if I'm not aware, you know, I can just repeat the same stuff over and over again. It says, ask yourself why. Why are you about to react? Be as detailed as possible. This question can help you identify and deal with subconscious trauma. It can also help you realize that you would be silly to react. Yeah, sometimes it's like out of pride, out of ego. You know, I have to understand why do I react and respond. You know, it's tough. It takes time. It takes work. You know, yeah. When I don't think before I speak, I get in a lot of trouble. You know, it doesn't end well, and like we try to change our attitudes, our behaviors, and our thinking.
Right.
And that takes practice, man. Like, is that something you have to get better with also, or
Yes.
I think we all do that
Yeah.
sometimes, you know? It can be tough.
When I react, it's out of anger, you know?
Yeah, yep.
It's not good.
That's like the one place we always go to. We feel like is like, and that's like a reaction. Like anger just doesn't like happen out of nowhere. It's just, you know, it definitely builds up.
Yeah, definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not easily triggered.
No?
Takes a lot.
Does it?
But when I do get to that point,
So you know yourself.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not easy to calm right back down.
Yeah. See, I'm easily triggered. So I'm the opposite.
And you don't take no mess. That's all.
Yeah, I know, but like it's like
Excuse me.
we all live by we all have our own morals and values and beliefs, right? We
Yeah.
all have our own things. But and like when people like expectations, if people don't live up to them, you know, we can get let down, we can get frustrated, we can get upset. And just some things that I believe in that, you know, others don't, and I can react in a negative way.
Right.
You know, some things just don't make sense sometimes. That can get a reaction out of me. But yeah, I like this article, you know, because like I think it's just something like everybody's got to work on is the response and reaction.
Right.
You know, it's something. It gets better over time.
Yeah.
You know, when we practice the response versus reaction. And like it says, what is the difference between a response and reaction? A reaction is instant. A response occurs after you consider the desired outcome. So you think about the consequences when we respond. You know, as we react, we don't think about the consequences. We just do and say what we want anyway. And we'll think about the consequences. You ever done that before? Well, we don't think about the consequences.
Yeah.
Just when we react, we'll think about the consequences later.
Right. But as we get older, we start thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, I live my life by that. Like, I'll react and I'll just think about it later on. I'll deal with it when it comes my way. You know, instead of thinking before I say or do this, because like, oh well, we talk about recovery like play the tape out. Like, I know if I use drugs or alcohol, or if I do this, like this is going to happen. Like my experience is jails, institutions, getting in trouble. You know, this hasn't changed since, you know, I was young. So why do I think it's going to change now?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get to know myself and what I can do and I can't do. And when I act a certain way, I see myself coming a little bit more. Like I know myself. That's a beautiful thing to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
And know why I do the things I do. You know?
Right.
But yeah, that was our coffee and conversation meeting for the day. And the article is by coachingonline.org. And my name is Carl, I'm a recovery coach here at CAP Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Mhm.